Welcome to ZIPS Nation Insider. My name is Jacob Farrar, here with Grant Bogdan. ZIPS Nation Insider is powered by the Fear the Root Collective and Bryant Heating and Cooling. Got a great episode scheduled for tonight. Looking forward to diving in with our invited guest. But before we get to that, Grant, let's do a quick recap of what's been going on campus. Not a whole lot since football is kind of wrapped up and fall sports have wrapped up. But now we're getting into winter sports are well on their way. So what do we want to talk about as far as sports on campus?
Yeah, let's do it. I think with football ending, I think a lot of people might think that sports are slowing down, and I think that's not really the case right now. It's very much in the swing of things between basketball, both men's and women's, and then swim and dive as well. So if you want to kick it off with men's basketball, they're staying hot, extend the home game winning streak to 5 with a win against Northern Kentucky on Tuesday. Final score of that one was 86-73. Tavari Johnson led the way on that with 27 points, so a huge night for him.
Also was a career night.
Career high.
Career night high before was last year with 21, beat that by 6 points, so career 27 points for Tavari.
And then James Okonkwo, 17 points, so big game from him as well.
Another career high. Yep.
So huge nights from him. I think Tavari was someone last year when we lost all those star players. We were going to look to him this year to kind of step up and fill a role, and he's starting to do that. So good to see from him. Excellent ball movement. We had 15 assists on 26 made field goals, which was great to see. And then we shot well from 3. So looking forward to our game on Saturday as we host Brockport at 3 p.m.
So I looked up some MAC statistics for our Akron basketball team. So I don't know if you know this, but they lead the MAC in averaging of 84 points a game.
Wow,
so the top offense. But one thing is interesting in looking at some of those stats is that we only have one player in the top 25. But we have a lot that are in the top of field goal percentage, which means that they are passing the ball around and everyone is contributing. It's not just one player. And I think if I'm Coach Gross, this is what I would like to see, that we're trying to figure out, the combinations of players on the court. So I think while that, some people may be disappointed the fact that we only have one player in the top 25, I think it's a good thing. It means that ball is being spread around and it's not just reliant on one player night in and night out, that everyone can contribute on the team, and that shows in the fact that they lead the MAC in scoring.
I think it's something we've been wanting to see as they're getting through the start of this season here and into conference play, as we see this team gel more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Passing the ball and get that ball movement going.
Absolutely. All right, ZIPS women's basketball. We're recording this on a Wednesday. They're actually playing right now. The game is going on, so we're hoping, fingers crossed, for a win. This is their first of 4 home games as they end the calendar year and before they get into to MAC games. So they have a home game tonight and then 3 more to finish out the year.
Yeah, so they played 2 games recently in the Colgate Thanksgiving tournament. They beat Iona 64-51. 4 players in that game had double figures, 2 of which have been on the show.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
So Tanisha and Maddie both were in double figures.
Absolutely.
Which was awesome to see. And then Zakiya Rashid and Alexis Mobley were also in double figures as well. So big game for those ladies. Unfortunately, dropped that second game against Colgate in game number 2. They were up early, but were down by 10 at half and just couldn't really come back from that. So hopefully they can rebound tonight. Slippery Rock game starting right about now.
So some other kind of MAC stats for the women's basketball team. So speaking of Tanisha and Maddie, they are also in the top 25 of MAC players in offense, but with Alexis Mobley, averaging 11.1 points per game. So she's number 19 in the MAC as far as points. We have a freshman that's number 4 in rebounds, Shelby Brown, transfer from Memphis. She is number 4 in the MAC in rebounds. And then Maddie Vasecki leads the MAC in 3-point.
Love to see it.
Yeah, again, a guest of the show, friend of the ZIPS Nation Insider. All right, and then I guess the other thing we want to talk about, we haven't really talked too much about it. It's our very first episode. We had a member of the swim team, but we haven't really talked swim team. So they have the Zippy Invitational this weekend.
This Thursday.
Starting Thursday, yeah.
Yep, so it starts Thursday, goes to the weekend. A handful of teams coming into town. Buffalo, Clarion, Cornell, Kaiser, and Oakland are all going to be coming to Akron to participate in that. And I think it's just a good time to showcase the program and get some top-tier talent coming to the university.
One thing about the swim team is looking back, they're just continuing what they've done in the past. They're leading, getting swimmers of the week for the MAC. They're in friendly territory as far as what they do every season. They're a machine over there in the natatorium. And we just found out that there's also track going on here on campus.
Don't forget about that indoor sport.
Indoor
that we gotta
sport,
focus
that's
on
right.
now.
Indoor track is going. There's a track meet this weekend as well. So, to your point at the very beginning, you think that with football being done or fall sports that it's just winding down. No, it's just as frantic as it was during the fall.
In the thick of it, so lots to look forward to.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks, Grant. Let's bring on our guest. One of the people we wanted to talk with when we started planning the podcast or the show. One of the folks that we really wanted to talk with, Allan Hoon. Allan is our guest. Well, not necessarily a guest in the suite, but our guest, courtesy of Tire Source, the official sponsor of the Turnover Tire. So, Allan, welcome. Your official title. It's a long one.
It's a long one.
Did you have to practice?
It's going through it for a while. So I'm our Associate AD of Events and Operations at the University of Akron.
So it's a role that you've recently kind of in that assistant AD. You've been on campus for a long time.
I'm finishing our 20th football season here at Akron.
20th football season. So both as a student and as an employee.
That all 20 years is as an employee.
Employee.
Yes, I did my full undergrad here, and then went on a hiatus to get my master's to a school to our east. We're not going to mention.
I was just going to say.
And then came back, and I've been here for the last 2 decades.
So how did you end up doing what you do? Talk a little bit about that progression in your career as a student, and then now it's coming back and working on campus for, like you said, almost 20 years.
Awesome. Well, I was very fortunate to where as I was getting into this field, the university was just beginning its new landscape for learning. The student union had just opened up. The rec center was on the finishing touches, and this building had not yet opened. So I was really excited about the opportunity of trying to work around and getting excited and passionate about new sport facilities. So like I said, went to the East, got my master's, actually worked in their athletic department for 2 years, and really found my passion. Absolutely loved college athletics, loved being around student athletes and coaches and putting on big events.
Now, was it specifically with facilities, though, or is that something that kind of came through that graduate experience? Or did you know you wanted to do facilities as you were studying here undergrad?
I didn't know that I wanted to do that. It really came on at my graduate school level, and being a GA in their athletic department, I really just absolutely found my passion, fell in love with working with facilities and events.
But still being part of what's going on. I mean, you are a critical part of athletics. You can't have athletics without a place to play,
You're
right?
correct.
So that's a really cool kind of niche that you kind of found your role and been very successful at it. So as an overseer of facilities for multiple sports, what are some of the unique challenges you see as it pertains to each of those individual, right? So things are different for basketball versus baseball versus soccer. What are some of those things that you have to think about as you cater the facilities towards those different sports?
Well, I think kind of one of the most important things, or what you guys just got done mentioning, is the chaotic schedule. Really laying out a critical and a well thought out schedule for our teams, both for all of their competitions as well as their practices. Having to work with every team to find out when those home events are, which ones are going to overlap, if we have to somehow modify that schedule, similar to like what the MAC does with volleyball, shifting a day or two if we have home football games. Trying to figure out how we can put on those games successfully for our student athletes and our guests and our fans and everyone that's involved in our department and everyone that supports us, but making sure we do so in a way that those student athletes have a great experience. So scheduling is a big part of our life, of making sure, 365 days a year, making sure that everything goes as smoothly as it can, and just trying to plan for as many things that can come up.
Not only just events, but also in case something happens during an event. We had a basketball game a couple weeks ago where the shot clock went out in the middle of the game. So your team scrambled to come up with, so it's not just finding a place for a team to play, but it's also in game and how to manage those types of situations.
You're absolutely right. And I think just like coaches, the only way, individuals like myself are successful are the people we work with. I have a great young staff with me, but also there's other people in support roles that have been here for a good amount of years. And knowing how to troubleshoot those things, planning ahead for what could happen.
Sure, absolutely.
Right now, I think outside the weather's starting to change on us. So I know that my guys that are over in the arena right now planning for the women's basketball game that's going to start, they're already looking outside planning for making sure we had snow and ice and salt to help loosen up everything on the sidewalks so that our guests have a safe experience coming to our events. but whether it's snow, whether it's high traffic, whether it's construction projects that are going on,
Sure.
we have to plan around to make sure that our student athletes really have a great experience.
That's a good point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it's not just the student athletes, it's those that are coming to watch as well. So there's definitely a lot on your plate in your role here on campus. We're talking with Allan Hoon. He's the Associate Athletic Director for Facilities, Events, and Operations. I got it right on the first time.
Nice job.
So you talked a little bit about your team. So what do you have? Who reports up to you, and what are their different roles within your organization?
That's changed dynamically over the years, but right now, like I call, I've got my right-hand guy, Steve Birch. He's over in my arena. He deals with a lot of my arena sports, with the scheduling of the arena, both with basketballs and volleyball, as well as our brand new Wentz Development Center, Family Foundation. That's another long name of facility.
Absolutely.
But scheduling that out, and then now newest to our staff is Logan Hawkins. He's an alumni from here. He's a football player.
Former football player, absolutely.
Yes, and he is just hitting the ground running, and it's fantastic. And I can't do this without our maintenance staff, Ken and Barry, as well as tons of interns that have been here over the years, as well as the current ones, Jackson and Francis. They're awesome, and lots of students. But managing all of them, managing our support staff, like the people that help us, guys that are working at tables, our table crew guys, ushers, custodians, all the little support staff people that are kind of back in the shadows during the event that you don't really notice. Those are all the little pieces that we have to plan and schedule for and make sure that we have the right number of people with whatever event's going on, so that, again, going back to what we talked about, our guests and everyone coming here is having a great experience.
I think one thing that people probably don't know as well is your team is responsible for the referees and the umpires and all those things as well.
There's so many things that we can overlook easily, yes. On top of all the scheduling, we coordinate all of the officials for every single game here at home. We use different software that gets scheduled for us. Certain sports we're required to pay the officials, other ones are paid directly by the conference. So we work with them, we coordinate with them, everything from where they're staying, hotels, lodging on site. And then also, again, like with the weather, or as you said with baseball, if those games change, we go to doubleheaders, singles, skip a day. We're coordinating extra days in hotels. We're coordinating, do they need to stay another day, and et cetera. What goes into all of that?
So your role, if I can break it down then, let me see if I can figure this out. You have lawn maintenance, people, that's
we got grounds,
yep. You got grounds. You have meteorology, right? You have to know the weather, because that can affect play. You have air traffic control scheduling. Like, I feel like your skill set is definitely out of the box. There's probably no way to define, and my guess is it's the same from school to school, right? I mean, your role, there's someone like you at all these universities.
There is. Well, not every school, but a lot of them are. Schools that are mid-majors our size are really facilities and operations and events are combined. Bigger institutions, the one to the south, Ohio State. My younger sister is an associate AD there too, also in event management.
Oh my goodness!
So it's in the family. But big schools like that divide it to where they have a group of people that deal with facilities and another group that deal with events.
Got it.
So based on the size of your department, you can start dividing up the resources and the responsibilities.
So let's talk about just the scope, right? So we're in the field house. This is the first time we've shot the show here, but we're in the field house. But what other, I guess, venues do we have on campus that are under your oversight?
Okay, so we have, obviously, if you go from the south north, we have InfoCision Stadium, SUMA Field, our football stadium. We're in the Style Athletics Field House, named after Fred and Louise Style. Next to us is the practice facility, conjoined with the rec center. Out front we have Lee Jackson Track and Field that was just renovated in the last couple of years. Lee Jackson Softball Complex. Next to that is Skeels Baseball Field, Cub Cadet First Energy Soccer Stadium, Schrank Practice Field that gets utilized by everything from intramurals, clubs, marching band.
Okay, so that's still under your oversight as well.
All underneath our staff.
Okay.
And then you go across the street to James A. Rhodes Arena, the arena.
Now, does the rifle team, is that their space? Does that fall under?
The rifle team is in a very unique space. The rifle range is a multi-use area, both by our rifle team, University ROTC, as well as the University of Akron Police Department. And I also believe the city of Akron also uses the firing range down there because it's such a massive space and it's of such high quality that Newt, our longtime rifle coach, shares that space with them.
Wow, so again, that's just under your team to manage all. I mean, again, that's not dissimilar to other schools on or universities. But yeah, that's a lot of things to look out for. And I mean, there's been times where you've had multiple events. It's not just one and then whatever. You could have 3 or 4 things going on at the same time. I remember last year, or 2 years ago, you hosted, in addition to baseball, softball, there was the NCAA rifle going on at the exact same time.
There was, and I think our basketball team was in the MAC basketball tournament at the same time in Cleveland. So it's a double-edged sword. We want to put on amazing events to showcase campus and our student athletes, put on our normal events for our student athletes because they're competing, but then also our student athletes that have done such a great job and earned the opportunity to play in the MAC championship. I also want my staff to be able to go and experience that and see that, but we have obligations on campus. So again, it goes back to the beginning of planning, trying to find a good balance, but then having a great staff with you. So
speaking of events, it's not just University of Akron that takes place here. You mentioned earlier about Avon High School. So we have Ohio State, or excuse me, State of Ohio football playoffs.
OHSAA playoff. So for different levels of the state tournament, we put in bids to try to host games here on campus. We always want to host games, but like I said, based on what our current schedule is, or our planned schedule, whether we're going to host a men's soccer NCAA first round, we don't know until about 5 days out. So we won a bid, so we hosted actually Avon versus Hoban for the state semifinals just last week, and that was the day after Thanksgiving.
So you have there's concerts. LeBron James has had events here.
And LeBron James had a photo shoot in here for a Super Bowl commercial a long time ago. We have done everything from indoor air shows in here with drones. We have done nonprofit walks for things like the Alzheimer's Association that I believe Learfield's connected with, Heart Association. We do OHSA basketball playoffs in the Jar. We do I Promise School, the LeBron James Family Foundation I Promise School. We host basketball games for them. We're also going to host more high school playoff games in the Jar. I think you had an event up on our club level.
Yeah, I've had events. Also, there's been movies shot in the Jar.
That when they shot the LeBron James, I forget the name of the movie, but when they shot that movie about his life at St. V, and a big part of it was playing all of his games here at the University of Akron. That was kind of my right-hand guy, Steve Birch. That was his baptism by fire, working on a movie set for a week or so. So
it's not just University of Akron. I mean, there's a lot that goes on here on campus that affects the community. So it's great to have a world-class, world-class spaces to be able to host some of these events, and it looks great. Obviously, there's always things. We're going to be changing out the lights in here. You're in the process of doing that. Yeah. So there's not just one and done. There's the ongoing maintenance. So when we think about facilities, how does that really play into selling a program? So the coaches are bringing in student athletes to try to recruit them to come here. Where do you fit in, and where do facilities fit in with that? I guess the selling of a program.
It's a very big component. Nowadays, we know that, keeping up with the Joneses, trying to make your facility the next best thing, besides the NIL and everything else, they're going to look at where can they develop their skills, right? Do we have all of the right assets and tools for them to develop as a student athlete? So whether it's an indoor facility like this for football, track and field, soccer, lacrosse, or whether it's a basketball, volleyball facility, we have to have those ready. So when we look at what's next, we really have to plan out years in advance. Depending on how much of a project change we're going to do, how much we plan on spending on it, we get involved with the university departments like capital planning, and they help us determine, between them and our finance department, how much money we're going to spend on the project, and then do we need to go into state bidding process and then have people bid for it. So we are getting we are getting a good competitive price for what we're looking at doing, but also we want to make sure that we're getting high quality things in here for our student athletes, because like this building we're sitting in, it's in year 23 or 24, I believe. We want to make sure that what we're building and the use of state dollars, we're using them the best possible way we can for the university.
So the most recent addition, and you mentioned this, was the basketball development complex. This is just kind of on the other side of the wall where we're at now. That's got to be a huge selling point for the basketball team to not have to worry about going over to the Jar where there's other events going on, but also it just looks fantastic. So congrats to your team for that.
It's obviously the Wentz Family Foundation training facility. You can't do it without that man.
Yeah.
You know, he bleeds Akron blue and gold. He's a huge supporter of our program. But again, that is a game changer for us because, it gives a place for our teams to train year round. And it's primary, that's the facility, that's what they're there for. Aesthetically, it is gorgeous.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing else like it in our conference. Selfishly, from a facility standpoint, it always gives us a place to put our teams. We never want to displace them, but if we have the opportunity to host things such as the University of Akron graduation that we'll have here in a couple weeks, or if we have a concert or anything like that, we want to make sure that our student athletes have a great place to go to continue their development, continue them getting better as student athletes, and that does it for us.
Absolutely.
So from a facility standpoint, we don't stress as much about if we have to shift that team over.
Sure.
We always stress, we always plan, but
Take one thing off your list.
it's one thing that it makes it a little bit easier for us.
Nice. So you talked a little bit about what's next. So what is next for facilities? I mean, are there things that are in the, obviously there's probably things that are you can't talk about, but I'd love to know like what's kind of in the roadmap, so to speak, for some facilities.
There's well, I mean, if people aren't aware, we've done a lot of stuff with offices for our sports over in the arena. We've done stuff like the lights behind us. This is going to be a game changer. These are same lights we've had as 10 years, so these are getting changed out. We do have some things on the radar that we want to look at. A lot of it is things that just really need a good facelift for our university. And at the appropriate time, when we're going to start revealing what those are.
I was hoping for a scoop, Allan. I was hoping for a scoop.
There's some good stuff out there. It's going to keep us up with the recruiting process. That's what we need. So we have some teams that are right on the cutting edge
Absolutely.
of just getting to the next level. And some of those changes, I think, are going to push them in that direction.
So where do you see facilities evolving? I mean, are there things that you go to these? I talked to Steve about there's a conference or an event you guys go to. What's kind of on the cusp of events, or but facilities for athletics?
Well, honestly, one of the spaces like the one we're in right now, not a field house, but your multimedia setup. Now that more student athletes are utilizing these type of things to promote themselves on different social media platforms, more and more schools are building social media rooms for the athletes to do it in-house, where they can go in and produce on their own.
Oh, interesting. From like an NIL perspective?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
And if you keep that in-house, then you can have a little bit more control to when you get those athletes through, but then also provide that as a resource to the student athletes.
Sure.
Multi-use of a venue is always, that's the number one thing. How can we best utilize a space? How do we best utilize our dollar? And how many student athletes can we impact with that improvement? And so things like a weight room that really helps so many different teams, and a building like this space where, baseball and softball coaches are texting me every day like, hey, I saw they put in one more light. How does that look? I'm like, well, there's about 200 left, so I'll let you know when the project's done.
Absolutely.
But it really is ultimately for the student athlete, for their benefit, so that they can keep developing.
And again, it improves the product on the field that we as fans get to see.
Absolutely.
So that's fantastic. So just a couple more questions for you. Appreciate your time. I know you have an event going on tonight. You've seen a lot of sporting events here. Can you name, I don't know, your 2 or 3 or your favorite? You've probably seen so many. If I was to, pin you down and say, okay, what was your top 2 or 3 favorite sporting events on campus?
I mean, you're never going to forget the 05 championship in Motor City when we coined the phrase Root Town, this is your team. That was awesome. Getsy to Hickson.
So that was your first year here then?
That was my first year here. So, it's the first year here. We got to get to a couple more games after that. That was a memorable one. I'm not going to lie. The overtime win against Toledo the other night might have been one of the most exciting football games I've seen in that stadium. Watching Clayton Murphy run and then see that kid become an Olympian.
Started here.
Watching our men's soccer 2010 national championship.
Yeah.
Seeing that happen, seeing them. One thing I learned is that at the collegiate level, it doesn't matter what sports you're really passionate about, right? When you see kids compete and participate at that elite level, there was a lot of number 1 draft picks on that team, in those few years. Watching athletes and saying that's the best athlete at their sport, and they're 15 feet outside of your office is pretty amazing to see.
I can imagine. And knowing that the work that you do helps them to get to that level, right? They're not getting that level if they have a bad field to play on, or they don't have the practice facilities. So, I mean, essentially, you're part of the recipe that goes into the success of the program.
We try to help.
That's fantastic. All right, last question. This is something that we do with all of our guests. Now, where did you grow up? Are you from Northeast Ohio?
Menor, east of Cleveland. Born and
Okay.
raised.
Getting a lot of snow probably.
Mom and Dad, I think, are hitting about 24 inches right now.
My goodness. So one of the segments we like to do is we like to talk about hometown pizza. So we have student athletes coming from all over. So I'm going to Mentor, and we're going to go out to pizza. Where are we going to go?
You know, unfortunately, I didn't have a Mentor hometown pizza, but I know if my boys are watching this that Mama Santos in Little Italy, I mean, right by Case Western, that is the #1 spot. My buddies and I went there the night before Thanksgiving for at least almost 2 decades straight.
So what's it called?
Mama Santos.
Mama Santa's in Little Italy, in Cleveland, right next
It's
to.
on 322
Okay,
Murray Hill.
that's your spot.
That is unbelievable.
Okay, I'm not familiar with it. This is a question we ask everyone that comes in, and most of the people are actually coming from outside, so it's been fun to listen to other places, but it's also great to get a recommendation.
It's awesome.
Something local. So, well, fantastic. We've had Allan Hoon with us on ZIPS Nation Insider. Thank you so much, Allan, for your time. And we hope that fans, when they come, they look around. One other question before we go.
Sure.
You probably cannot go to another arena and not help but like, oh, I like that, right? Oh, they need to fix. Like, how does that affect your viewing of sports in other places?
It's a double-edged sword, right? So we go into other places. Sometimes we see, ooh, I like that, and then all of a sudden we go and find the local facility guy and say, hey, where'd you get that? Or snapping pictures of QR codes and we like it. But at the same time too, sometimes we also don't get to relax when we go to other venues because we're looking at stuff and we're asking, why did they do this, or why is that there? Or, you know, we show our credential and walk right in.
Sure.
Or if I didn't want to wait there, I'm using my keys and going through a back door. When my children want to go to sporting events and we're like, oh, we're waiting in lines. What is this like? It's a little different. It's a little surreal. I don't want to say that we're sports snobs, but
you can't help it. You can't help
We're
it.
very blessed.
Yeah, you
We're
can't
very
help
blessed. You know, nowhere else do I get to stand by someone on the side of a baseball field and snap photos, you know, lean over a dugout, right? I don't get to do that down at Progressive Field.
There you go. All right, thanks, Allan. Appreciate you being on
Absolutely.
ZIPS Nation Insider. Thank you so much.